He pulled Robbie from the tree?
What were you watching?
How did I miss this?
It's a really dark shot, but yeah, the tree is stuffing him into like a mouth hole.
Yeah.
And then he gets pulled out of there.
So I had a completely...
What do you think it was trying to do? F*** him?
No, I thought honestly that the tree was guarding him. I thought that, like, all right,
That
so
was
think about it.
great.
Think about it. I swear to God.
When we first met John McClane, Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John...
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your three hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Lyons.
Y'all mind handing back? You're jamming my frequency.
And each week, we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. Each week, the audience selects from 4 movie choices that we then break out our race car VHS tape rewinders and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. At the end of each episode, the three of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie we need to take to get off your butts. So thank you so much for listening and tuning in and downloading and all that stuff. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and share with a friend. That's how we help the podcast grow. With that being said, Big D, what are we doing tonight?
Okay, so the category this week, because we have the holiday coming up, Halloween, was 1980s horror movies. In last place, Halloween Part 2. My favorite Friday the 13th was next, the final chapter, with only 5%. Nightmare on Elm Street and Poltergeist, they were so close in the end that we decided to do both. But tonight, you get the winner with 47% was 1982 Poltergeist.
Okay, so wait a minute. So we're doing Nightmare on Elm Street and Poltergeist this week because this is our favorite holiday. We're doing it back to back, right? Because they were so close in voting.
Yeah, we decided to be fair. Like we had a 1990s horror category, but the film sucked, and it really there was a lot more passion for the 80s. So I just did not want Poltergeist to win. I'll be honest.
You didn't?
Did not at all. And watching the movie now, I know why.
Okay,
I'll get to it.
All right, well, we'll get to it. Well, Poltergeist is a 1982 American supernatural horror film directed by Tobe Hooper. Steven Spielberg wrote and produced, but had a clause in his contract to prevent him from directing another movie while he made E.T. Therefore, Hooper was selected to direct movie based on the work on his work on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is the first and most successful entry in the Poltergeist film series, set in a California suburb. The plot focuses on a family whose home is invaded by malevolent ghosts that abduct the family's younger daughter.
I'm glad you mentioned this, the E.T. link here, that Spielberg was working on E.T. at the same time, because I felt like this and E.T. could have happened down the street from each other.
Right.
Like everything was set the same, kids on bikes in the suburbs, going down the hills, the California countryside. It was all so Spielberg. That this makes a lot of sense that they were kind of, that he was working on the same. I mean, I honestly would not be surprised if they were just up shooting a block from each other.
Most people hold this movie in high regard. It was released in 1982. The film was both a critical and commercial success. It achieved in being the 8th highest grossing film in 1982, which is big for a horror movie. Years since its release, the film has been recognized as a classic, both within the horror genre and also has a cult following. Aside from being nominated for 3 Academy Awards, the scene with the clown attack was ranked as the 80th. Number 80 on the Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, and the Chicago Film Critics Association named it the 20th scariest film ever made. The film also appeared at 84 on the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Thrills, which is supposedly a list of America's most heart-pounding movies. That being said, both of you didn't want to do this movie, so do you agree with these rankings?
I think it was good, but I need to ask, how the fuck did this get a PG rating?
They talked him down. There was no such thing as PG-13 because Spielberg was so high up, because he had such a powerful name in the early 80s after all of his string of hits. He was like Wonder Boy. He literally went down to the MPAA and talked them off the ledge, which goes to the point of it's fucking bullshit. The MPAA is bullshit.
I kept wondering how many people went to this movie thinking it was a Spielberg feel-good family movie. And about 10 minutes in, we're like, I think we might want to take the kids and leave.
But I mean, I think that speaks to one of the key flaws in this movie is that it seems a bit schizophrenic. Like it doesn't know if it wants to be a Spielberg feel-good movie or if it wants to be a horror movie. And there were very few scenes in it that really, to me, even consisted of horror. I'm shocked that Bravo called the clown attack scary at all. It was comical at best.
No, it terrified me.
Did it really?
I'll get to it, but I had to pull the covers up on the couch. I did. Well, because I knew once the clown disappeared, spoiler alert, that he was going to be somewhere under the bed, and I didn't know when he popped out, so I did pull up the blankets a bit.
So what scares you is the fact that you know it's going to attack, you just don't know where.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So like that's your military training coming into play. Like you're like, I know the enemy's out there, but I have to strategically plan for it.
They teach you to be very wary of clowns.
Yeah, but like for me, if I saw like a scary clown in my room move, I just leave the room. Like I wouldn't like stay in the bed and like search for it.
Yeah, or at least throw your sister in the way. Like that's what I would do.
Yeah, like you came for her last time. Like it's not me you want.
I mean, she's gonna die in a couple years anyway.
Oh,
right, but like too soon. So here's my problem. You talk about the fact that it felt like an uneven movie. Like it didn't know what his identity was. I had no idea that the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was also the director for Poltergeist. So you know that he had probably a very different vision of how he wanted to translate this movie, which comes through in some scenes and in others is very Spielberg. Like it was like he was like, "Hey, I like what you did with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I want you to do that like as if we were at Disney World."
Yeah, I just feel like Hooper was probably working on it for like days on end, and then Spielberg would roll in from ET and be like, "What the fuck? He peeled his face off? You let him peel his face off. Why are there so many upskirts?"
Well, the film's success helped spawn a franchise consisting of two sequels, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, and Poltergeist 3, which was released in 1988, and also there was a remake of the same name in 2015. I don't remember seeing the other Poltergeist movies or the remake. I think the scariest thing was the fact that Heather O'Rourke, the actress who played the little daughter, shortly after the filming, she caught pneumonia and unfortunately passed away, right? But there was like
Where'd you get that from WebMD? If you wait to the end here, we got a breakdown of all the curse. Everyone who died.
No, you believe that there's a curse? Are you kidding me?
We'll get to that.
All right. So the first thing we always ask is, what were your memories of this movie? I'll start with you, Big D, because you apparently have some knowledge, some conspiracy theory.
No, I told you I didn't want this movie to win because I don't remember much about it or thinking it was that good. From the second I hit play, I realized that I had been suppressing memories. That I must have seen this as a kid, and it seriously traumatized me. Because the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to be embarrassed. I felt uneasy watching this alone in the dark, and I realized as a kid I must have viewed this and just wiped it from my memory.
Plus,
but a good thing is I realized those Star Wars Empire Strike Back bed sheets. I still own them today. They're not on my bed, but I still have the set.
This was the movie that I was not supposed to watch because it would upset my family. As I've mentioned in other podcasts, I think was it Ghostbusters? My grandparents' house was haunted, and that's where HBO was. So like I snuck it in one night by myself on HBO in my grandparents' house that was haunted, the movie that I was not allowed to watch, and I could not sleep in the dark after watching that for an entire fucking summer. To this day, the first thing I do when I decorate a new house is install nightlights strategically around the house in order to remove any and all darkness or uncertainty. This movie scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah, I never saw it as a kid. So when we were going to watch it, I got really excited for a minute because I thought we were going to watch The Exorcist, which I love. I love The Exorcist. And so then I realized I was like, what the hell is this? And then I was like, oh, Craig T. Nelson. It can't be bad. I was not impressed. But you guys know, like anything that's folksy or like wholesome or all American in the film genre I'm gonna reject it outright. And that definitely happened with this. I was not. I mean, same reason I don't like Home Alone. It's the
How
same
dare
reason
you.
I don't like Christmas Vacation.
Ugh.
It's just that idealization of like suburban America. I'm always just like, oh God, here we go. So anyway,
Well, that's what Spielberg is. He's the idealization of white suburban America, not for a malicious intent. It's just that that's all he knows. That's where he was born.
But this is the thing with Spielberg, though, is also like, but then you got like, Jaws, Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, which we counted as a perfect movie. Saving Private Ryan, one of my favorite movies of all time. Close Encounters, I thought was pretty great. So, like, I think in essence, when Spielberg tries to do just normal everyday stuff, that's where I think it turns me off.
Right. So with that being said, Big D, roll the trailer.
The house looks just like the one next to it. And the one next to that. And the one next to that. A young couple live in it.
Give Ken a kiss.
You are so obnoxious.
With their 3 children.
Honey, chew each bite 10 times.
And something more.
They're here.
Sweetie, remember last night? Do you remember when you woke up and you said you were here?
Uh-huh.
Well, who did you mean? Who's here?
TV people.
Something's funny going on here next door. Something,
We were wondering if maybe you had experienced any disturbances lately.
What kind of disturbances?
I don't know what hovers over this house. I've never sensed anything like it.
That thing is in there with my baby!
There are hundreds.
Now Steven Spielberg crosses a frightening new threshold into a world within our own. Its form is revealed.
What is it?
Its focus is clear. And the games are over. Poltergeist. It knows what scares you.
Stephen and Diane Freeling live a quiet life in Orange County, California, a planned community called Cuesta Verde, where Stephen is a successful real estate developer and Diane looks after their children, Dana, Robbie, and Carol Ann. Carol Ann awakens one night and begins conversing with the family's television set, which is displaying static following a sign-off. The following night, while the Freelings sleep, Carol Ann fixates on the television set as it transmits static again. Suddenly, a ghostly white hand emerges from the television, followed by a violent earthquake. As the shaking subsides, Carol Ann announces, "They're here."
This scene made me feel like I was 85 years old.
What?
I can't believe, and I lived through it. People today must watch this and say, what do you mean the TV shut off? Yes, at around midnight.
Oh, that's right.
I remember when they stopped broadcasting. I don't remember the anthem as much as I do the bars. So you would get bars
Yes.
for a couple hours. And then in the morning, I think at like 6 a.m., because I used to get up for Saturday morning cartoons. At 6 a.m., you would get the bars. I think then they played the anthem and it would come back on.
Well, thank God for syndication and TV advertisements today, because kids don't know how good they have it now. The fact that there's like 24 hours of straight television programming. But like static for me is scary, paranormal, I'm about to get possessed by a demon. Bars mean like apocalypse or zombie outbreak.
Well, it is interesting that I noticed how many things were derivative of Poltergeist that have happened later in pop culture. For instance, with The Ring, with the TV, I mean, you see the silhouette of Carol Ann in front of the TV, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is
right.
The Ring," you know. But it's years before its time. And then also with the being trapped in the upside down sort of thing. It's very Stranger Things. Stranger Things is incredibly derivative of this movie. And in addition, you've got Ghostbusters even. Ghostbusters came out a few years after this, and a lot of the stuff that happens in Ghostbusters almost feels like it's a reaction to Poltergeist. Having the parapsychologists, the 3 parapsychologists that show up and they're using their equipment and they're trying to figure things out. They kind of bumble a little bit. They're scared. Like there's so much. They even had one black one, it's very I saw some real ties between this and other movies, which I appreciated and kind of helped it score with me because overall I was not impressed, but in this case I was.
Okay, but was there any other movie that effectively used little children in a manner that they were creepy but also the victim? Like, you felt bad for Carol Ann, but she was also creepy as shit. All right, Big D. Emma's roughly what now? 4? How old is she?
She's 17.
I'm joking.
17.
No, she's like 2. But she's talking now. Like, she's developed a personality that you love, a personality that you understand. If one day she started talking to the television or to these like imaginary people, how the fuck would you react?
Well, it's probably the same way I reacted last night watching this movie. I actually wrote down, I said, holy shit. I said, this little girl, she's creepier than any ghost, any paranormal activity we see. Just Carol Ann on her own. The most terrifying thing in that first 10 minutes is when she's standing in front of the TV, everyone's asleep, but we're watching her, and she's like, hello? What do you look like? Talk louder. I can hear you. And then she's like,
right.
5? Yes. I don't know. If my daughter, if I walked in on my daughter doing that, I probably now would pick her up. We'd leave the house and go see a psychiatrist, but it was unnerving. It was so effective in such just a creepy, natural way. I didn't need to see the ghosts.
And I hate that when the movie gets on a roll like this, with that creepy scene, and you're getting kind of goosebumps, and then they totally it always ends in a thud where the big payoff is not what you expect. So in the case of when the spirits are finally revealed through the TV, you've got these great performances. Out of some of the characters, I'll get to some of the ones I couldn't stand, but in essence, you develop this mood. There's this creeping feeling of unease. And then they use this like cartoonish hand that reaches out and it ruins it. And you could have done it. One of the movies I always point to as being so effective is Rosemary's Baby, right? You never even see the baby, but it's like, but the performances convey a dread and a horror. And I think in this movie, they're here is so cool, but it's offset by the dumb hand.
Okay, so Jaws and other movies, when you don't see the thing, it's fucking creepier. So I don't understand why Spielberg, who knew that in Jaws, wrote a story where like you see bad ghosts, like where you see bad CGI, because he was the king of like making the villain something hidden, something that you're afraid of.
But you got to remember, Jaws wasn't a creative choice. It was a malfunction by the shark, or he would have had the shark in every scene.
Okay.
So here he thought he could do the cartoon animated hand, and it looked bad. I wish they had just stuck to the sound effects, the static. If they had stuck with that, I think it would have been really effective. But one of the things, and I don't want it to detract from what I thought of the movie, I kept finding myself thinking, these parents are fucked up.
Right.
They're trying to portray them as cool. Hey, these are like parents we've never seen before. They're smoking pot. They're having a good time. Mom is flushing a bird. They seem kind of hip. But I found myself really being bothered. What?
A parent is hip if they flush a bird?
No, because they weren't like the normal stuffy.
Right.
Like the mom, they seemed kind of cool. They like to party a bit. Dad was doing his fake college diving. But when it came to taking care of the kids, I couldn't stop but saying, take care of your kids, get out of the house. Take care of your kids, get out of the house. And that detracted from my wondering what was going to come out next, was how the parents were going to, fuck up. The parents to me were not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, dude, they're letting construction workers sexually harass their daughter, and they're just kind of like shaking their, oh, those guys. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, you're also like eating the food and drinking our coffee through a window.
Okay. The story was written by Steven Spielberg. Is he purposely creating characters like that to showcase that this movie is really about a family that, their parents really don't understand their kids and they're not very good parents? Or is this movie about ghosts?
No, dude, this movie's about greed. They call the okay. They call the housing place, it's called Cuesta Verde, which means green cost. Like this is about understanding that greed is a source of evil, and God, they really fucked up that whole tale.
Okay, so you think it's a movie about corporate greed. I believe that it's also a tale because I swear to God, I thought that this movie involved them building over Indian burial grounds. I thought that, I swear to God, that's one of the things I remember about this movie. It might have been Poltergeist too. I swear to God, it's somewhere in the lineage of Poltergeist. Do you remember that as well?
Yeah, no.
Like it was Indian burial grounds?
Well, again, I'd suppressed this movie, so I think I suppressed them all. It's the taller, skinny guy. He seemed like he was like a pastor. Yeah, there was an Indian burial ground. I think that comes in later. But I was expecting him to pop up sometime in this movie too.
Okay, so this one is just strictly about just any skeleton.
I think it's what Gene said. You wonder why would the poltergeist choose their house? Yes, it was on a burial ground, but he was the developer who sold more than almost half the houses, and his daughter Carol Ann was born in that house. So if you're going to pick somebody to be mad at and you want to go after a child, that's why you would choose the Freelings.
I'm mad at whoever the hell came up with the remote control gag scene with the football. What the shit was that all about?
Hold on. You're mad at that. What about the poor dude going on a beer run on a kid's BMX?
Why is he on the bicycle? Did he get a DUI?
He's drunk.
He's probably drunk. But those kids are little shits. He should have smashed their car. He lost half that case.
No, wait a minute. All right, so you're blaming the kids for the fact that this man's such a degenerate that he's riding a bicycle with a case of beer? You're blaming the kids in that situation?
A degenerate?
He's a fucking... Have you ever gone to go buy beer on a bicycle?
No.
Why?
Well, maybe he was thinking about safety. He was trying not to run over the kids.
Okay, so the safest vehicle when you go buy beer and transport it back, an entire case, is a bicycle with no basket? The kids knew that this is the fucking town clown, so of course we're going to knock him off his bike with our cool RC cars. Are you kidding me? Those kids are great. I wanted to be friends with those kids, because you know what I never had? An RC fucking car.
Don't drink and drive like Roger.
So bizarre events occur the following day. A drinking glass of milk spontaneously breaks, silverware bends, and furniture moves on its own accord. The phenomena seem benign at first, but quickly begin to intensify. That night, a gnarled backyard tree comes alive and grabs Robbie through the bedroom window. While Steve rescues Robbie, Carol Ann is sucked through a portal in her closet. The Freelings realize she has been taken when they hear her voice emanating from the television set that has been tuned to an empty channel.
I couldn't believe how quickly the movie started out with us seeing the poltergeist, us kind of being thrown right into it. And it escalates quickly. They go from moving chairs and little tricks where the family thinks it's cute to 2 minutes later, the tree's breaking in the window. Shit escalated, went sideways real fast.
And I appreciated that because it even got creepy. I mean, they had the creepy, talking to the TV scene within the first few minutes. And that really helped me hold on to the movie because otherwise all the comedy that they're putting in earlier on would have really ruined it for me. But they gave me little nuggets. And a lot of horror movies make the mistake of taking way too long to get to the point. So I was kind of glad they did that. But yeah, it escalated very quickly. I was surprised that the parents were using their children in paranormal experiments. Like, oh, well, the furniture's getting pulled. Let me put the kid on the floor, but give her a helmet.
But the fact that she has a helmet tells you that the mother did it the first time. The girl probably went slamming into the wall and she goes, oh, I better go get a helmet. You know this mother wasn't planning ahead and putting a helmet on the kid first.
Like, Gene, if you had a daughter, or just if you one night were hanging out with Caitlin, watching Netflix or playing Destiny 2, and all of a sudden shit started moving around in your house, would you be like, let's stay here for a little bit. Let's run a few experiments. Let's, channel our inner Mr. Science or Bill Nye the Science Guy. Because the first thing I would do is fucking leave the house and take the dogs with me. Take everyone I cared and, go somewhere. Like, what would you do in a situation like this?
Yeah, a lot of people talk about 9/11 had first responders. We consider ourselves first evacuators. Like, we just if they're like, there's a 30% chance of tornadoes coming through, we're out of here. Like, we're buying tickets to, Nebraska or something like that, which I think would actually have a higher, chance of a tornado. But point being, actually, if stuff started moving around my house, I would tell Caitlin, you might want to leave. I'd be excited because I'm still looking for that haunting.
But don't you wish that they had played that gag a little longer? Let the ghost be playful. Let the family interact a little longer. Let us get into it. Because they kept making it seem like it was fun. The mother was somehow enjoying it. If that had gone a little bit longer and then you flipped it, I think lulling us into this kind of false sense of security that the poltergeist is, maybe it's not all that bad, and then drop the hammer. But that tree, it doesn't even pretend to be nice.
Ghosts are like theme parks. They're fun to go to, but then when you go home where you spend most of your time, you want to be normal. You don't want to live in a ghost thing. But the fact that my grandparents' house was haunted, I didn't have a choice in the matter of where I stayed because I was a young kid. So I was just you had to suffer through this haunted house.
Yeah, it makes sense, but there's a difference between creeping out and a child disappearing. At that point, it goes a little bit at that point, you go, we got to do something about this. And that's where this movie, I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? You're leaving children unattended, children are disappearing, you're not calling the cops. What the fuck?
Yeah, but it doesn't start out that way. Like you said, it accelerates. My family, would you just tolerate, let's say that you really enjoyed your house. But it was still a little creepy, but you really enjoyed it. And you were upside down in your mortgage. You don't really have an option. You have to fucking live with the ghost, right? You don't know these people's, maybe they're in over their head. Maybe that's why the family has to stick around for as long as it does. And he works for the company. So that's why he can't escape. So that makes it like he's trapped, right?
No, explaining why they stay, I can question their judgment. And I found myself screaming at the TV. We have the tree attack.
Sure.
Robbie is sucked out into the tree. This magical tree is trying to eat him.
You think it's trying to eat him?
Oh, it was eating him. It was eating him. Yeah, it got him down to his neck.
No.
It hurts.
Yes.
It hurts.
The tree was eating him.
The tree was eating him?
Yeah,
it was in its mouth.
Yeah, the tree was eating him all the way, so the dad had to come pull him out. But you're saving...
He pulled Robbie from the tree?
What were you watching?
How did I miss this?
It's a really dark shot, but yeah, the tree is stuffing him into a mouth hole.
Yeah.
And then he gets pulled out of there.
So I had a completely...
What do you think it was trying to do? Fuck him?
No, I thought honestly that the tree was guarding him. I thought that all right, so think about
Groot?
it. Think about it. I swear to God. Think about it. All right, here's what Roger Roper saw. I swear to God, think about it. The father's story about why he built the house where he built it. He's like, I built it in front of this tree that's been here forever. It's this very wise old tree. And what do we know about trees, guys? It's if Lord of the Rings and Guardians of the Galaxy have taught us anything, it's that trees are our friends and they're our guardians. So it would make sense that when the portal opens and it starts sucking in the room, the tree would come in and try and protect its friend, which is the little kid.
No.
It'd be like, I'm trying to protect you because I'm,
No.
and then the ghost is like, well, listen, I got to get you out of the way. So I'm going to suck you up into my tornado vortex so that you can't protect this family. So the tree was a bad guy.
You're missing the whole point. The tree was a distraction to separate the family. You pull out Robbie, then the parents go running down to save Robbie, and of course they leave Carol Ann behind.
Okay.
Carol Ann gets sucked into the closet. She's now missing. What do they immediately do? Turn around and run back downstairs and leave Robbie unattended in the room that Carol Ann was just abducted from. They're not making wise decisions.
No, it's because they're high all the damn time and jumping off of beds.
But all right, so what I'm getting at is I know we've talked about this with Ghostbusters, but is there anywhere in your mind that there could be hauntings, that people could be possessed by demons? Is there anything in your mind that tells you this is real?
No, you crazy bastard.
No, you don't believe that any of that shit is real.
No, it's called mental illness.
And that's what I was talking about. And that's what I'm saying. You call the cops. If your kid disappears, you call the damn police. And they weren't even involved in here. How the hell is it that you find parapsychologists before you call the cops?
Hold on. Forget about that. You just had construction workers in your backyard who were sexually just ogling your daughter, reaching in your window, eating your food, drinking. Your daughter turns up missing. You wouldn't first think, oh my God, that creepy
one of the construction
pool
workers
dudes came back and just pulled my daughter out of the window. But no, they decided to go to the university and try to find parapsychologists.
What? Yeah, all right. So what would be your series of calls or research in a situation like this? How far down is local paranormal expert and ghost investigator on your list?
It's definitely behind fucking the police.
All right. So, all right. So Emma is taken by a spirit. You see it happen. Who do you call?
I call the police and then I go get my head checked.
All right, so you and your wife both see this. You both have the same story. You call the police first. You've just become suspect number 1 and suspect number 2.
I don't care.
These parents are trying to hide it from society that their daughter is missing because it was taken by a ghost.
But that's just it. They don't see her get taken.
Yes.
She's gone.
All right, but they hear her.
It doesn't matter.
So
They
you
hear
don't
her
all
in
right.
the TV.
All right.
Yes.
So here's what I'm saying is that a movie would not be entertaining if they called the fucking police first. Also, if I'm hearing shit and my daughter is gone somewhere and I'm hearing through the TV and this is my story, the last person I'm calling is the fucking police because I know I'm going to jail.
Okay, so in a more powerful movie, in a more powerful horror movie, they do call the police. The police come and investigate. They're now trying to struggle with the fact is, are we going crazy or is this shit really happening?
Yeah.
And then they start hearing the voice coming out of the TV. Now they're on the edge of what do we do? And they have to put their faith in somebody that seems very unlikely. And then you bring in the parapsychologist. That's what you do. That's what you do with the time that you spend on the goddamn remote control joke.
Yes,
All
or
right.
even this, Raj, it would have been more realistic if one of the two parents had even just raised the question and said, listen, I know we both think we saw the tree reach in the window. Should we call the police here? It would have made me think the parents are more believable. Instead, they're just unrealistic.
No, guys, this is why a Ghostbusters franchise makes so much sense. Because the last thing you want to do is call the police in a paranormal, activity situation. It's like when you get ants in your kitchen. Like, you don't want to call the police over that. You want to fucking call, a group of guys that are come and capture the ghost, and then you're not going to deal with ghost problems anymore. Like, that's why the market opportunity is so fresh for this. But anyway, that's why they go out and they seek out these parapsychologists from UC Irvine, Dr. Lesh, Ryan, and Marty. They come to the Freeling house to investigate and determine that the Freelings are experiencing a poltergeist intrusion. They discover that the disturbances involve more than just one ghost. Stephen also finds out in an exchange with his boss, Louis Teague, that Cuesta Verde is built where a cemetery was once located.
So Dad is looking rough pretty much right away. He's looking like he's losing it. But Mom, she's surprisingly upbeat. She's offering tea to the researchers when they come in. She's taking a little bit of a drink. Does she seem like she's a little too upbeat about this whole situation?
Yeah, I felt like it was very consistent in the acting. And what it struck me as is I get the same feeling when I'm watching bad anime. Like, there's these characters that are like, and you're like, what the hell? You just sprouted a monster out of your arm and you're just acting cool and casual. Like, it just seemed a little weird. And what I don't understand is you have this entire subdivision at your disposal and you're just not leaving the house. Like, I get that your kid disappeared at the house and you want to stay there in the sense to find her. Like, that's the last place she was seen. But you would think you wouldn't just go about in your bathrobe doing some laundry. Like, that's not high on your list right now.
But why would you leave your other children there? You can do your searching and trying to find her. You don't need to put poor Robbie through this. Robbie is scarred for life. There's a point where Robbie looks at his mother and goes, Mommy, if I die, could I go to that place and then I could talk to Carol Ann? The second my kid starts talking about killing himself to go to this in-between world to meet with my daughter, get him out of the house. He needs therapy.
According to you, the first thing you would do is change your carbon monoxide detectors.
I would, because
your
it's
CO2 sensors.
Yeah, because we're having some kind of collective episode.
No. All right. So do you believe that the haunting should have only been concentrated on that house, or do you believe that it should have been the entire fucking neighborhood? Because if the story is that they built over the cemetery, like, it's more than just their house, right?
No, I
where are the
explained.
rest of the other, occurrences happening?
I explained why it's him. He deserved it. He was responsible for what happened.
Because he's the top salesman in the company? Why aren't they fucking targeting the owner of the company? The one who's really at fault for this?
I think poltergeists have a limited effective range.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing is, it's like, who knows if the boss man lives like in the same subdivision. But beyond that, you've got a team of parapsychologists who come out there. They open the door. They see an undeniable poltergeist. Then they go downstairs and have tea and chat about it, as opposed to calling a million other researchers to get their asses over there right away.
Yeah.
And the mother seems to be having fun with it when the lights flicker. Uh-oh, we got another one coming. They come in pairs. Your fucking daughter's gone. And it's terrifying the way that they use just, we'd said, keeping the monster hidden. There's the scene where they start using the sound of Carol Ann, like running. Oh, there's somebody here. He's chasing me. He's chasing me. And you hear the voice running around the house. That was much more terrifying. But the mother immediately flips back to, oh, hey, having a good time. It just got me so mad. I wanted to reach through the screen and just choke her.
And they got Dr. Lesh giving this like really long philosophical speech about what happens when we die. And, you know, if I'm Craig T. Nelson, I'm like, can you please shut the fuck up? Like, let's stop talking with the kids about what happens when you die, and let's fucking find this kid, for God's sake.
Yes.
But all right, so do you think the parapsychologists they've never experienced anything this big? That's the whole point. The guy, I think you dubbed him Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lionel Richie is like, I once saw this car move, 10 inches in 7 hours. And I caught it all on video. That's the extent that these guys have ever been through. Now they're on the full threshold.
Well, I don't know why they bothered setting up all this equipment. They got like cameras everywhere, like seismic readers,
right.
PKE meters, I'm guessing, and they're not paying attention to any of it.
Right, exactly.
Problem is, Ray and Egon ran out of the library with that music after just seeing one apparition. These guys, if I walked into your house, you told me you had a poltergeist, and I saw that vortex of shit, I would be shaken. I wouldn't just be downstairs like, whew, I'm safe. I'm down. I'm on the first floor. Don't worry about it. I would have expected them, at least, like Gene had said, call in some reinforcements. Why are you setting up cameras to catch something coming down the stairs? All you got to do is open up the fucking door and film the room.
Yeah, fucking Marty's over there tearing his own face off, and you're like reading seismic scales.
You got fucking the Hulk riding a horse, a record being played by a compass. That's more exciting than maybe getting a light show down the stairs.
Well, after Dana and Robbie are sent away for their safety, Lesh and Ryan call in Tangina Barons, a spiritual medium. Tangina states that the ghosts are inhabiting the house and are lingering in a different sphere of consciousness and are not at rest. Attracted to Carol Ann's life force, these spirits are distracted from the real light that has come for them. Tangina adds that there is also a demon known as the Beast who has Carol Ann under restraint in an effort to restrain the other spirits.
All right. Tangina is what is up. This entire movie hinges on the fact that she is a badass. She's got sass. She's got a drawl. She's got that personal style. Like, everything about this woman kicks all kinds of ass. And it's literally the only part of the movie that I enjoyed. As soon as when she appeared, the movie became interesting for me. When she was gone, the movie was no longer interesting to me.
But do you buy that she's this true expert? I got the vibe that she's a hack, that she was feeling her way as she's going along. And she's trying to describe the difference between a haunting and the poltergeist. She does a few things that make me question it. When we finally get to the rope scene at the end, and she's like, no, I have to go. I'm the expert. And the mother goes, no, I'll go. And she goes, well, oh, okay. Yeah, you go. Just go. I don't buy that she truly knew what she was doing.
Oh, I think she did. I mean, when you look at one of the great things about this movie that was, again, very quintessential Spielberg, is giving you a couple of tools and then you're trying to figure out what they're going to do with them. They did that with E.T. as well. And so it was the tennis balls, the rope. You're like, where is this going? She had a plan all along. She tests out, will things pass through? So she knows exactly the way things are going to go. She walks right through it. And if everybody listens to her, as she said, will you do anything I ask, even if it comes against your beliefs as a human being and a Christian? Then they'll be fine. And she works it out, and she's confident in herself. I thought that she was just a great character and knew exactly what she was doing.
Okay, well, either of you met a medium in real life? Have you ever gone
Jesus Christ.
Like a psychic, someone who believes in ghosts, believes that they can see ghosts? Because, all right, so that's what happened.
Yes, you.
No, all right. So the only other person nodding their head was Gene. So you're you're in the minority, sir. Both of us have both met and encountered mediums, and my family heavily invests in mediums on a yearly basis. It's like their annual checkup.
It's a wise
I swear
investment.
to God.
Yeah.
I know. So Gene, before I tell my story, what was your experience with a medium?
I don't know, it's horseshit.
You believe it's horseshit?
Thank you.
So what did you do?
Horseshit.
So what did you do?
Oh, in almost every single lock-in that I've done, whether it was at the Mansfield Reformatory or the Hannah House or just any sort of like a seance, like anytime that there is a medium involved, I'm just like, they just reek of utter horseshit. I'm like, none of this shit makes sense at all.
I swear to God, this is true. To escape the presence of the spirits at my grandparents' house, they waited for a long time. Then they called in a medium because they didn't know what else to do. Granted, they probably, like, if it were
find
me,
the exhaust leak.
I would have. You would have called the plumber, the electrician. I don't know who you call for a gas leak. I guess it's the plumber.
A licensed contractor.
A licensed contractor. But like, all right, so my parents did not do that. My grandparents did not do that. They called in this person who I swear to God gave the entire history of it, and then told them why the ghosts and the spirits were acting in such a manner. The story that they came up with is that the main haunting ghost was in love with and wanted, I swear to God, this is true, wanted my aunt, who's like my big sister. So they wanted, like this fucking story, like the little girl, they wanted Jolie because she was the youngest. And they hated my grandmother, much like they hated the...
Wow.
I can't believe I'm saying this.
I wonder where they...
yeah, right. Okay.
I wonder where they got this idea from.
Wherever they got it from. But why would my family talk about, like, the fact that, like, my aunt, who's not a religious person, who's very, like, Buddhist in her like, you know, her belief system, why would she tell a story about seeing faces in the shower, or the fact that, like, she would see Civil War era, you know, people dancing in the room? Why would I be freaked out all the time? Why would I see that woman? I saw it. I fucking saw it. Why would I see that?
Because
why
if your
would
family,
everyone in my family have these same experiences?
If your family makes enough suggestions, you're eventually going to see it. There are people who will buy for $10,000 Jesus on a burned piece of grilled cheese.
Right.
You see what you want to see. If you were raised in a house where people were telling you this story, after a while, it starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy that you believe you have this ability, there is a ghost, and you're going to see it. Does it exist? No. The fact that you believe it shocks me.
What?
To this, I can't believe that you actually believe this, and I still feel like you're punking me.
No, this is true to life. So additionally, as a result of all this haunting, my mom to this day goes to a medium. And I've gone once, and I'm like you guys. I think all this is bullshit. But if there was something like this going on in my house, I would fucking call a Catholic priest. I would call the Catholic Church. That's who I would trust in a situation like this.
Are you gonna wipe all your hard drives first?
But so you're gonna call in a priest.
Yeah, I would call in a priest.
Just like they call in Tangina for help. She's coming out there as the expert to maybe save your daughter.
Sure.
Why is dad being such a raging dick and making like short people jokes, mocking her about, oh, is it on this side of the rainbow? That's counterproductive. She's here to try to help.
I'm trying to answer her with my mind.
Yeah, no. But I mean, these are the kind of parents, as we've defined, that are the kind that put their underage children and a dog with a taxi driver. Are you fucking kidding me? This is the era of kidnappings and strange shit that would always happen to kids. Strangers was like our biggest fear. Like, these parents are not taking the proper steps.
Yeah, I mean, in their defense, the dog is clearly the most responsible person in this movie, and so having the dog with the kids is a smart thing. If you notice, the dog is always getting in the front seat of the car when they're leaving in the grand finale when shit's really hitting the roof. Dog is like in the car before anybody else, and he's got this look on his face like, "Let's get the fuck out of here." So I think it's fine, but again, it is a little strange that, again, you've got two parents. Neither of them seems to want to go with the kids. They're just like, you know, and again, consistently throughout the movie, they leave the kids alone or separate them, which is, again, you know, from the thing we've learned is you never separate people in a horror situation.
They obviously don't care about Dana, their poor daughter. She goes away to stay at a friend's house, and that's the last we see her until the very end. So they don't care about their kids at all. Especially Dana, who's off, you know, with boys and Holiday Inn and I-75.
Well, the assembled group discovers that the entrance to the other dimension is through the children's bedroom closet, while the exit is through the living room ceiling. As the group attempts to rescue Carol Ann, Diane passes through the entrance tied by a rope that has been threaded through both portals. Diane manages to retrieve Carol Ann, and they both drop to the floor from the ceiling, unconscious and covered in ectoplasmic residue. As they recover, Tangina proclaims, "This house is now clean."
In any movie with this many characters that's worth its weight in salt, you've got to have in a big standoff like that, when something goes wrong. In this case, when I keep wanting to call him Coach, but when
Craig T. Nelson's character,
yeah. But what the fuck is his name?
The father.
Yeah,
Steve. So yes, Steve. What are you, his fucking best friend?
I'm reading IMDb.
Spielberg wrote himself into this movie.
All right, fine. Okay, so hey, Steven. Okay, so when Steve is when he fucks up and doesn't listen to Tangina, and that face comes out of the void, and he needs to die. Steve should have died in this movie. It's paying the ultimate price for his sins. It's and then the rest of the family gets to survive. There's a sacrifice made there, because these monsters aren't worth anything if they're not to be feared in any way. Nobody's actually killed in this movie.
Wait a minute. What are the price of his sins? Again, why is he the bad guy? Because he seems to genuinely care about his family.
Yeah, dude. Sorry,
he's just bumbling around.
So demons and malevolent spirits are not like the court system. Okay, they don't give a fuck. They blame you because you're there.
Yeah, and they've already tried to kill or abduct your daughter, and you're going to go to the office for about 6 or 7 hours. He didn't put his family first.
I don't know. What I'm saying, guys, is that I think that no one's to blame for the ghosts haunting the house. Also, like, the ghosts, I don't believe, get to choose who they're haunting, because it seems as if the real bad guy in the situation is his boss.
Okay, who the fuck are you to judge who a ghost or a poltergeist wants to possess? It's up to them. There's no rhyme or reason.
So it's up to the demon.
Yes.
So you think it's all right. So the demon wanted the child, but you're going to sacrifice the adult for the child.
No, what's happening there is, if you watch the sequence of what Tangina is trying to do, she's trying to remove the source of light.
Okay.
That's distracting. So what she wants to do is take Carol Ann toward the light, so that all the spirits follow her, because they're following her as she is the light. And then at the last second, direct them into the light and pull her out of there, and therefore deny the demon everything, his ability to repress her and to retain all those souls. And in the process, when Steven pulls too soon, the demon turns its sights on him. It should kill him. I mean, that he's fucking up its plans.
I guess the problem that I have is they named this demon the Beast.
Yeah.
Couldn't they have spent some time on fucking naming the demon?
No, I think
it's just.
Well, I mean, Tangina's naming it. I don't think she's like.
But don't you find paranormal movies more interesting or more scary when it's rooted in biblical demons? Like, they give it truly a name, like Beelzebub, or someone that you can.
Zool.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Or the flip side of that, don't name the demon. You don't know what it is. It's just a malevolent, demon, one that wants to hold the souls. Why does it want to hold the souls? What's its background?
No, forget about the name of the beast. It's terrifying hearing poor Carol Ann telling her mother, "There's something here. It's chasing me," and knowing from the description that it's pretending to be a child and a friend of hers. That was terrifying enough. And the sound of her running around, the name didn't bother me. But what was odd is the pairing of music with these scenes. Often when you were going into terror, it was like this upbeat, whimsical music, like, hey, everything's good and happy in the house. And then they paired that with the ghost coming out of the door. It was like whoever had done the score wasn't watching the actual movie.
But also, it's a good point that we introduced is it's scarier when you're just hearing Carol Ann. When you actually see ghosts or you see the skeletons, they're coming out, that's not as scary. Or when you see the ghosts come out of the doorway and attack the mother, the bad animation, the unknown is really what terrifies you.
Yeah, but what was odd was pairing it with the soundtrack to Bosom Buddies. It felt like it was like a bad sitcom.
Well, shortly thereafter, the Freelings begin the process of moving elsewhere by packing up their belongings. During their last night in the house, Stephen leaves for the office in order to quit his job, and Dana goes on a date, leaving Diane, Robbie, and Carol Ann alone in the house. The Beast then ambushes Diane and the children, aiming for a second kidnapping by attempting to restrain Robbie and Diane. Robbie is attacked by a clown doll in his bedroom, and Diane is attacked by an unseen force that moves her up the wall and over the ceiling in her room. The unseen force drives Diane to the backyard, dragging her into the swimming pool. Skeletons surround her as she tries to swim to escape, but she manages to climb out of the pool and make her way back into the house. She rescues the children, and they eventually escape to the outside, only to discover coffins and rotting corpses erupting out from the ground in their yard and throughout the whole neighborhood.
So this one I want to do a little yin-yang and say that in a sense, I thought the end scenes had the best practical effects in the entire movie. I thought it really got to the point here where it was verging on a little bit frightening. With Diane getting dragged up the wall and more things happening in the actual physical space, not being animated. I thought that was really great. On the flip side, again, just a classic misunderstanding of the way people actually behave. The kids are way too okay with being in the same room where they were attacked like just a day before. I mean, some huge shit. Now they say that Carol Ann doesn't remember any of it, but Robbie sure as fuck does.
Fuck yeah, and the mother remembers it.
Yeah.
So the mother's gonna leave them in the same room because she has something important to do. She's got to go color her hair, and then she's gonna go take a nice long bath. And I don't want to seem pervy here, but the bath scene and then going into her bed in her, t-shirt and little panties. I thought she was going to sit there and rub one out.
I don't know about rub one out, but every woman should have that number 65 giant t-shirt. That's a good look.
She looked good.
You guys.
What?
I'm just saying, look, you're right. You're absolutely correct. But I mean, like, that would be furthest from my mind after a series of events like this is like, I'm now that it's all finished, now that it's all done with, let me go pleasure myself. Like that's the last thing I would think about.
Well, if you want to talk about the last thing you'd think about, okay, so every time I've bought a house, most of the houses I bought have been like built in the 90s or later. And I move into the house and I'm always like, what the fuck is this bathtub? There's always like a master bedroom bathtub and like no adult could fit in that bathtub. And I'm like, what? And all I can think is like, maybe people were smaller 20 years ago. Like, I don't know. This movie is proof that all bathtubs have always been too small because she is crammed into that thing and they're showing like 8 feet of leg.
So relaxing.
But it is, I mean, come on, Raj. It is absolutely meant to be a sexual scene.
You think? No, you guys are terrible.
Yes. Did you see also the creepy dog? The creepy dog comes in and stands there.
That's our friend.
And he watches her change. Why is the dog in that scene?
Because he's the smartest person in the movie.
That's right. Well, listen, I thought this was great because just when you think the movie is over, it hits you back. The demon doesn't go away. But also, like, this is fucking Spielberg. He's used this corpse appearing, this what do they call it? When something appears right behind you. They've used
jump scare?
Yeah. Spielberg uses the skeleton jump scare in all of his movies. Think about it. He's used it in Jaws, all the Indiana Jones movies, Goonies, which he was the executive producer, and it was a story written by him, Jurassic Park, remember the arm of Sam Jackson? It's on all of his movies. Why haven't we learned to this point?
But you want to know the fucked up part about it? Where they talk about the curse? Do you know that they actually used real skeletons in this movie because they were cost effective?
That's not true.
It is 100% true. I will show you.
That is an urban legend.
It is not
crazy.
I will show you the interview. It
cannot be cheaper to use human remains than it is to use plastic.
I will show you the interview with JoBeth Williams, the mother who found out after the scene was shot that they were genuine corpses. They were genuine skeletons.
Then why would what you're suggesting is that they made a movie about the exact thing the movie was doing.
Ironic, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not true.
And that's why people started dying.
You're crazy. You believe in weird conspiracy shit, but you won't believe that ghosts are real.
You're the fucker who just told me that your grandmother was doing all this crazy shit. She was probably smoking meth, but
what's smoking meth?
Just listen.
How dare you? How dare you?
So forget about the fact that the kids are now back in their room.
Right.
Why would you have that creepy ass clown? It didn't attack you the first time, but you know it's coming.
Yeah, I told you I'm sending Emma for Christmas this year a 12-inch clown doll, and I want that to be prominently displayed where it's in her sightlines at all times in her room.
No, that thing terrified me, and I'm not embarrassed to say, as an adult man who can take care of myself, when that clown disappeared, I pulled the covers up, and first Robbie looks on the left side of the bed, and I was like, fuck, okay, he's not there. Then Robbie looks on the right side of the bed. I could not watch it, so I don't know how the attack actually went down.
All right, here's my thing. You're afraid of clown dolls, but you don't believe in ghosts or possessions.
It's a fucking movie. I don't believe the clown dolls are real either.
It's just a clown doll, according to you.
It doesn't matter. I knew he was going to jump out.
So when I show up, when I give Emma a clown doll, and if I come to visit within 6 months and that clown doll is no longer in your house, what am I going to think? I'm going to think that you didn't like the clown doll because you thought it was going to be possessed and like kill your family.
No, just because I think it's a tacky gift.
Because you believe in ghosts.
No.
Anyway,
it'll be in Goodwill the next day.
Okay, it'll be in Goodwill because you don't want that clown doll in your house because you're afraid of it. As Stephen and Dana return home to the mayhem, Stephen confronts Teague after realizing that rather than locating or relocating the cemetery for the development of Cuesta Verde, Teague merely had the headstones moved and the bodies left behind. The Freelings flee Cuesta Verde while the house implodes into the portal to the astonishment of the onlookers. The family checks into a hotel for the night and Stephen rolls a television outside into the walkway. End movie.
So you mentioned a bunch of characters in that run, and that gets to one of my complaints to kind of close this thing out for me. Rod, you mentioned when we watched Porky's that there were too many characters in that. There are way too many characters in this. They just send characters off to just be like gone for a while. They could have really
we don't know what to do with you.
We got a couple guys working in the yard. We got 2 kids. We really don't need 2 kids. You know, you got just people coming in and out of here. And I think, again, with so many characters in the movie, everyone had less of an impact. You know, you didn't need the 3 investigators. Right. You didn't need, it was just, you could have really trimmed this movie down and given each person more impact in it. So I feel like they had more characters than they knew what to do with, and it made the writing a lot weaker. Might just be an 80s thing.
No, I definitely agree with you. It's like, why do they need 3 paranormal investigators and then a medium, right? I think if you toned things down, if you made it 2 kids instead of 3, you could have developed the story a little bit more with the relationship. You have an older one, you have a younger one who really believes it. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying here. But, like, does anyone here feel bad for the ghosts? You know what I mean? Like, it's not their fault the fucking, development was built over their resting spots. Like, is the demon a hero of the ghosts? He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna step in here. I don't think this is right. They're taking our land. Who's coming with me? I'm gonna stand up for you, rights as ghosts, as dead bodies.
No, it's quite the opposite. I mean, so you can see the 2 different types of paranormal activity in the same place. That's exactly what they're getting at. Is that there's these lesser spirits who are trying to find their way out, and they're being distracted. And the demon or the beast sees that distraction, being Carol Ann, and uses it to his. He knows that if he keeps her repressed, then the souls will be attracted to her and never be able to pass on in the afterlife, thereby consolidating his power and control over them. So that's like the whole. That's the whole messaging there. But yeah, so you do feel bad for the lesser spirits, and that's why they appear as sort of angelic, like these lights. They're just trying to find their way out. Whereas he. Or she, I think we see it's a he in Poltergeist 2 and 3. Are definitely not nice.
Okay, so who's the villain in the movie? Is it the demon, or is it the corporate head of the corporation that built over the cemetery?
Oh, I think Teague. I mean, I think Teague is being portrayed as there's a parable there, but I think that the ultimate villain has still got to be the beast. Teague, I don't think had any sort of malevolent intent when he did it. It was just money.
You don't think it's a malevolent intent? Okay, so if you're a builder, if you're Teague, and you want to build, someone comes to you and says, hey, we got this great deal on this land. Here's the catch, though. It's built on a cemetery. So you can build it. You just got to, like, relocate the bodies. And you're like, well, here's what I'll do. I'll just relocate the headstones, and no one will double-check me. Like, there's no government, organization that's going to come in and make sure that, like, what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to grease the palms of the building inspector and make sure that they don't go 6 feet below.
Well, first of all, this entire scenario is implausible because when you dig a foundation for a house,
right,
you're gonna fucking hit the graves.
That's right, exactly. So there was little to no government oversight here. So theoretically here, again, I think what we're saying here is the builder is in the total wrong. The demon is just taking advantage of a situation.
I'll go a step further and say cemetery builders are wrong because they're taking up perfectly good, usable property to put dead people in the ground.
I agree with you. I don't think that we should ever I don't want to be buried. I want to be. Have you seen these things where you're cremated and then put into
T-shirt cannon?
You're put into a thing that is then and then at a basketball game you're shot into the audience. That's how I want to go out. But no, like the people who could be a tree. Like your remains are in with the soil, and then your family can plant that at their plot of land of choice. Like I think it would be cool to be a tree, right?
And then 90 years later, you pull a child out of a bedroom window and try to eat him.
Exactly. But no, I thought that it was an effective ending for a horror movie about ghosts. The fact that he rolls out the television, like you get a little bit of a laugh out of it. There's an emotional roller coaster that I felt like you took throughout this entire movie, which is very effective, which is why I enjoyed it. And the fact that they ended on, a little bit of a wink and a nod to how this whole thing, started in the first place. It's very Spielberg, right? It's tongue-in-cheek, kind of like what he did with Jurassic Park. But like I thought it was a great ending. And for that, that's why I like this movie so much.
It only took an hour and 15 minutes for the mother to scream out, "No, don't touch my baby." She's the worst mother in cinematic history.
You're terrible.
She's awful. She's terrible. I did enjoy at the end, once the house implodes, we get more of that musical mismatch with like a flute orchestral piece with like a children's choir. I felt like it was a bit Lost Boys. But as much as you think it was a great ending, I always, instead of thinking how the movie was, I think about how the movie could have been.
Okay.
And I think it could have been a lot better.
How so? What would you have changed?
I told you, I would have made a little less special effects.
Okay.
I would have made the ghosts friendly component in the beginning last a little bit longer. I would have had the parents act in a more realistic manner. I think you mix too much tension and drama with like the parents being upbeat and happy. The tone was all over the place.
What would have been amazing for an ending is the camera pans out from the imploded house and you realize that this is happening across the 300-acre subdivision.
Bam!
Like in every home, this is happening.
Yes.
And I'd be like, holy shit. Here's a crazy thing, though, you guys. I thought that 300 acres seemed like a bit much for a cemetery that people just went away and people didn't seem to notice. That is half the size of Arlington. If a cemetery that big was just paved over by a subdivision, somebody's going to fucking notice.
Right. Well, so where's the rest of the civilization? If there's a cemetery this big, there's got to be a city nearby.
I was surprised that the cemetery was just like right there. Like nobody mentioned it the whole time. Like
Right.
all this weird shit's going on. Nobody's like, maybe it's that cemetery right there. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
So the fact that the house is sucked up into a vortex, did that bother you at all?
I thought it looked good. Like when it started out and the light started emanating
Right.
from the house, I was like, uh-oh, here we go. Like some crappy. And then I was like, oh, they actually did a pretty good job on that. It looked like a house imploding. It looked pretty good.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was going to do. The home values in Cuesta Verde.
You're worried about.
You're worried
about those?
You have to try to explain that. Maybe it's like a sinkhole. How do you explain it away?
That's when you buy low. That's when you buy. But like, do you think the ghosts are gone, or would this always be a vortex?
I don't think they would have made Poltergeist 2 and 3 if they were gone.
So I still have dreams of my grandparents' house. There's this one specific location that I swear to God is the vortex of, like, I have dreams of me going into that area, and it was go ahead.
I'm convinced that the vortex is definitely somewhere near you.
It was the pantry. I swear to God. What I'm saying is, I believe that, like you, this movie could have been done a little bit better. One of those is I don't want the house to be sucked into the vortex. I think it's more realistic if the house stands and like the ghosts are sucked into some portal, but then like the whole house doesn't have to explode. It's a little much.
Well, again, I think it's the metaphor there that, that it's all that this investment, that this grand home that they love so much, as Diane says, thousands of memories and it's all just disappears. It's I think it's supposed to be poetic. Supposed to be. I want to emphasize.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. A house in the suburbs in Orange County, California. Very poetic. Well, now's the time of the podcast where we break out our Shat meter and tell you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your butt if you never listened to the podcast. 5 wipes is the equivalent of passing through a paranormal portal and coming out covered in meat and other ectoplasmic goo. A 0 wipe movie is the Spielberg of movies. That being said, Gene, how many wipes do you give Poltergeist?
I gotta admit, guys, I was mostly bored. I was bored. Then I would laugh at the movie, not with it. Then I was bored again. I think there were a few suspenseful moments. There were moments, and I will admit, I want to say, I want to be fair and balanced here, that I did get goosebumps at times, a little shiver up your spine, and you couldn't even explain why. And I think that's a testament to how well done certain scenes were. But the reveals were always disappointing. I think that, either if there was a struggle between production and direction, maybe they weren't allowed to make it scary enough, or they weren't allowed to make it appealing enough, and it kind of hit that weird dissonance in between. So for me, it's a 3 wipe movie, right down the middle. Enjoyable, but I don't really want to watch it again.
Dick, how many wipes?
I think I'm going to give it actually probably like a 2.5. I wouldn't watch it again, but not because I think it's terrible, but because I think it terrified me, even still today. What it did right, it did really well. The unseen Poltergeist, it really raised the hairs on my neck. It was difficult to watch. Carol Ann was creepy, even just in her normal everyday life. The little problems we have with the plot, overall for 82, I think it was entertaining. It was much better than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I think it's lived on this long in pop culture, and anything from they're here to a lot of the scenes you just remember. I got to give it, I think a 2.5 is fair. Is it up to par necessarily with maybe the current horror movies? No, but I don't think that's a bad thing. For its time, definitely 2.5 wipe movie.
Does it make a difference if I tell you that The Exorcist came out 9 years before this?
But that's on the other end of the spectrum. How many Exorcists have there been?
Right. Well, the Exorcist TV show is surprisingly good on Fox, and it's not being watched. And I don't know if it's because people think it's too scary, but that's a network horror television show done right, like a thriller. To your point, Gene, I agree with you. The Exorcist is a far superior movie, but I'm in concert with Big D. It's a 2.5 wipe for me because it's an effective, well done mainstream horror movie, which I don't think that parents weren't afraid to take their kids to go see this movie, partly because it had a PG rating. Also, teenagers, it was accessible to them. They could see it. And so it introduced a different genre where horror movies didn't have to be 100% scary all the time. They could have laughs in it. It could be an emotional roller coaster. Sure, it has uneven parts, and there's going to be things that are going to be watered down for that reason, because it's more of a mainstream movie. But it's still a good movie. So that's why it's a little bit better than average. Certainly, unfortunately, the rest of the remakes and the sequels did a disservice to the entire franchise, but there have been other far superior movies that were inspired by Poltergeist, like The Ring, like I thought the Paranormal Activity had a lot of this same kind of DNA in it. And so for that reason, this movie's iconic because it inspired better movies that stole from it. So anyway, I think we're all talking the same language. That gives us a 2.66 rating. Big D, where does that put it on our Shat list?
So that puts it back down in that same area that we discussed last week at number 24, where it's tied in that range with Pretty Woman, Top Gun, First Blood Part 2, and Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this movie and Ghostbusters are sister movies. Like they had the same impact on me.
Yeah.
I do have to, again, just go back to the fact that the face peeling scene was pretty damn good. Like, it was really quality.
It was scary. Yeah.
I jumped when they stacked those chairs. Something as simple as that.
I was more freaked out when she's passing back, when she's drawn out, like she's done this for so long that she's done, like that stuff was creepier and more effective. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And I can't believe I'll say this, but I would probably watch this before I watch Ghostbusters.
That's fair.
Ooh.
That's fair. I would watch Ghostbusters more.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be afraid to watch this again, but for a different reason.
I just really want to watch an actual horror movie with Big D because he seems easily terrified.
Right. I can't wait to get you that doll. Oh. All right. Well, now's the time where we talk about our shout outs and the next movie, Big Gene. Big Gene. That's the first time I've ever done that. Gene, what are our shout outs?
Shout-outs are a way that listeners can show their support for Shat the Movies. We don't ask for money or anything else. We just want to hear from you and know you're out there listening. So we obviously see the numbers every week, but it's nice to put some names to the numbers. So you can go to shatthemovies.com, see the little slider, and put your name in there. It says get a shout-out, and we will read it on the podcast. So this week's are from Mike Oxlong, Dennis, Joseph James Jerome Gibney, Traveler, Hugh G. Rection, AJ, and Thomas C. Thanks everyone who've wrote in, and if you want to get your name read on the podcast, hit us up at shatthemovies.com.
That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Just follow at Shat the Movies. We're also on Facebook. Our website, once again, is shatthemovies.com, where you can email us your suggestions for movies. That link, if you want to go directly to that, through your email app is hosts at shatthemovies.com. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. All that we ask is you subscribe and be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcasts, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, and Game of Thrones. I'm also on a podcast called All the Spoilers, where we're recovering Mr. Robot. You can find all the information at Shat on TV and realspoilers.com. On behalf of our co-hosts, my co-hosts, Big D and Gene Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next, I don't know, in a couple days when we release Nightmare on Elm Street. Thanks so much for listening. Take care, good night, and good luck. Happy Halloween!
Safe trick-or-treating.